All right, then what do you say to the skeptic who says it is a hallucination?
Right. So the question is, what were these post-mortem experiences of these early disciples? Were they appearances of Jesus in the external world? Were they veridical visions, or were they non-veridical visions? Now, it's interesting that the New Testament draws a clear distinction between appearances of Christ and visions of Christ. The appearances of the risen Christ were to a limited circle and soon ceased. But visions of the exalted Christ went on in the New Testament church. Paul saw them when he was praying in the temple in Jerusalem. Stephen saw a vision of Christ at the stoning. In the book of Revelation, you have a vision of the throne room of God that John sees. So that visions in the church were something that did not cease, that went on, and yet these were distinct from a resurrection appearance. Now, what was the difference between an appearance of the post-mortem Jesus and a vision of Jesus? Well, the answer of the New Testament seems to be clear. An appearance of Jesus was an actual appearing in the external world, physical, tangible, extramental, whereas a vision of Jesus was something that was purely intramental and subjective in the mind of the percipient. So that I think this gives good grounds for saying that the appearances of Jesus to the disciples were not visionary experiences. They were rather extramental events. And I don't know of any other way to explain this distinction between appearances and visions in the New Testament other than the one were extramental and the other were intramental.
What's the tip-off from the evidence that they were appearances versus visions in terms of the words? How do you know that?
Well, I don't think it's a distinction that's made in terms of vocabulary. I don't mean to suggest that. It's rather a conceptual distinction. And that is made simply on the basis of the fact that the appearances were thought to be to a limited circle of people. They soon ceased. Paul regarded the appearance to him on the Damascus Road as highly unusual and out of time because it was so late. But visions of Jesus went on in the church all the time. Paul said in 1 Corinthians 12 that I have many visions and revelations of the Lord. And in the book of Revelation, you have a very colorful vision of Jesus. So the New Testament is clearly making a distinction between these resurrection appearances that the disciples first experienced and then the later experience of the church. Now, how do you explain that except to say that the one were intramental and the other were extramental? I don't know of any other way to explain this distinction, and I've never seen any skeptical critic which has been able to differentiate this in any other way.